if you talk about 60 trillion, it means you can run this country for 60 years without cybercrime losses. This is a global issue, and take into account that the world loses about 600 billion US dollars, which is equivalent to 60 trillion shillings. Our budget is about 1.4 trillion in terms of national income. Now, if you talk about 60 trillion, it means you can run this country for 60 years without cybercrime losses. Africa lost 350 billion last year as a result of cybercrime. Kenya alone lost 21.2 billion shillings, and it was number 2 to Nigeria. So that is a concern, because 21 billion shillings can do quite a lot for this country. You can imagine how many young people will benefit from bursary if that money was channeled to such an important project. And as the country improves in terms of ICT, the level of exposure is higher. If you look at the top 10 countries which have highest incidences of cybercrime, they are all developed countries in terms of IT. America, United States leading, Germany, Japan, France, British, they are all up there. And in Kenya, you can see the penetration of internet. We are hitting around 54% internet penetration. Mobile access, we are having over 30 million Kenyans out of 40 million have mobile phones. Institutions like banks, they are losing a lot of money. It's never reported in media because of reputation risk. But they keep quiet. They never go to court. There is no legislation in place. Last year alone, study shows that banks lost 18 billion shillings out of cybercrime. If you go to Safaricom and talk to them quietly, they will tell you they are losing a lot of money via M-Pesa as a result of cybercrime. The issue that arose in Parliament was very recent. It's about 2 weeks ago. Matters of cybercrime has been there. There has been a long discussion, international conferences on matters of cybercrime. And Kenya, though, has done well in terms of the ranking on cybercrime, being number 3 in Africa, according to ITU in last year. They did not have a legislation around cybercrime, and that was a concern. Other countries like Tanzania, Nigeria had the cybercrime law almost 10 years back. South Africa and the others had this legislation in place. Something has to be done, and that something is what we are now discussing now, having in place a legal mechanism through the cybercrime bill. It is not as a result of the MP's incident, because in any case, that is a small thing. So many Kenyans are receiving nude pictures in their phone. So many Kenyans are getting messages from committee guys. You know, those guys who keep sending messages and telling you you've won this prize and all that. Those things are happening all over. We have things like cyber espionage, where companies steal data from each other for competitive purposes. That has to be dealt with, and that is covered in the bill. We have incidences of international espionages where countries steal data from each other. That is a very critical issue. We now have an issue to do with the critical information infrastructure systems, which refers to those systems which are very critical to a nation, that if they went down, there will be huge economic loss, or there will be harm to people or to the economy. For example, nuclear plants, they must be protected. You can imagine if one hacked into a nuclear plant, what will happen? In Kenya, for example, if you hacked into KRA database, see what will happen. If you hacked into aircraft control systems, you can imagine what will happen. It will lead to death. Those are issues which are covered in this bill. So they are much bigger issues that are covered in this bill.